Cullen goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, 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 and welcome to February. Boy, for somebody who has trouble saying R's, that'd be a bitch of a word. February. Number one, tomorrow, Groundhog Day. A sure sign that we're coming toward spring, which is always a good idea. All right, Cullen, stop the meteorological crap and let's get into it. So, it's Friday. It's just you and me and lots of news. Spent some time watching the Chuck Hagel confirmation hearing yesterday. I've started watching C-SPAN with all these committee hearings taking place. Watched the gun control one, watched Hillary, watched Chuck Hagel yesterday. If it's just sort of like on in the background, it's interesting stuff to listen to. And I must say that I thought that the characterizations of him that I've read in the paper today, of him being sort of weak, flummoxed, confused, not very articulate, are correct. He really did not seem capable of explaining his positions in he just really seemed like a bit of a dummy. I was shocked. I mean, maybe he's just not silver-tongued, but in his position, assuming he gets it, of defense secretary, I mean, there are times when he's got to be able to hold his own in conversation. I don't know. He just might have had a bad day. I'm not sure. If you had bothered to watch it, you would see that what I'm saying is correct. He really seemed like me right now. I mean, absolutely couldn't think of what to say. Tongue-tied, I guess, is the proper term. And just inarticulate when he did string some words together. And he was being hammered, but, you know, he used to be a member of that committee. He certainly knew what is no big shock here, what he was getting himself into. And given the fact that he knew that the Republicans were gunning for him. I don't know. I was really stunned, not impressed. And I know that one's ability to finesse that kind of a situation does not necessarily mean that one then would be a great cabinet secretary. And just because somebody isn't good at that, sharp banter, doesn't mean they wouldn't be a good defense secretary. But boy, I'm sure the White House couldn't have been happy looking at it. It just was not impressive. Ed Koch, a great political character, has died. Ed Koch, the mayor of New York for three terms in the 70s and 80s, and quite a character. I used to get a big kick out of him, and then the older he got, the more sort of, I thought, cantankerous and wrong-headed he became, and he started annoying the hell out of me. But still, a great character. And a classic New York character. I cannot for the life of me remember where we were, but I stood next to him at some event here long time ago. Maybe I was introducing him at something. I don't know. We were at an event, some hotel, some big room, and I remember standing next to him trying to make small talk because I was going to have to introduce him. And I was looking forward to it because at the time I still adored him. I thought he was a riot, funny. I liked his politics, generally speaking. And I found him absolutely so egocentric that you couldn't have a conversation. I remember thinking, what is he talking? He literally kept talking about him. He said there was something that was out in the news. Gee, I wish I had a better memory because I got great stories, and now they're just nothing but Swiss cheese. There's, just a sense, yes, I was talking to Ed Koch, and all he was doing was me. Something about something. And the line I remember was that he turned to me with such a, look of joy on his face. He said, all it was about me. And there was something like almost childish about that. You expect that from a child. Me. But here is this, he was very tall. Here is this big, tall man, and all it was about me. And I thought, oh my God. But they don't make as many characters anymore. I mean, I suppose they do. Well, no, we don't. We don't make them. The sort of societal push toward uniformity. Politics was one of the places where characters often flourished. And they're fewer and fewer since our politics has become professionalized, and since there are talking points, and since there are consultants who tell you what to say, what to wear, what kind of dog to get, that kind of thing. It's pretty hard when you have this focus group mentality, There was a time when people just came as they were, unadulterated by any of these consultants and pollsters and groupthink, and produced, as people would respond to such people. They were real people. It's one of the reasons Chris Christie in New Jersey, I think, is so popular. I see it. I mean, I understand his popularity. He seems real. He seems like a person. He seems like someone you know. Truly somebody you might want to have a drink with. Instead of these, you know what, well, I don't need to go on. You know what I'm saying. Ed Koch was such a wondrous character. May he rest in peace. Let's do some gun stuff. I got a few gun-related things. This blew me away. High school in Illinois, Cary Grove High School. I'm not exactly sure what part of the state that's in, but parents got a letter the other day explaining that there was going to be a drill in the school for security reasons. And here is part of what the letter said. The simulation will take approximately 15 to 20 minutes, during which time teachers will secure their rooms, draw curtains, and keep their students from traveling throughout the building. Please note that we will be firing blanks in the hallways in an effort to provide our teachers and students some familiarity with the sound of gunfire. What? What? And I mean, they did it. Some parents said, "What?" But they did it. This is now. They locked the school down, and as part of the drill, they had police going throughout the building for 15 minutes, shooting blanks, pinging them off the lockers so that the children would learn the sound of gunfire. I don't even know where to begin with that. I don't even know what. So that's one school district's response to Sandy Hook. Here's another. This comes from my sister's state of Missouri, and she sent this to me. There's a bill in the Missouri Senate that would require schools to train teachers in handling guns and responding with guns when necessary. And it would also require schools to teach gun safety starting in the first grade. Specifically to teach the NRA's Eddie Eagle Gun Safe program. So, I mean, I can see the parent of a child who is 6 years old just sending their little child off to school, not wanting the child to be required to be introduced into how to handle a gun at 6. Okay, that's another school's, and in this case, politicians' response to Sandy Hook. Ooh. I saw a piece of video on TV last night. It was of a younger, thinner Wayne LaPierre. It was from 1999. We were all younger and thinner then. But he looks almost exactly the same, just younger, thinner, and just as unlikable. But he was appearing in front of the Judiciary Committee at the time and talking about reasonable gun control measures. And this was in the wake of another massacre remember way back when, Columbine, another school massacre. And 1999, Wayne LaPierre said this: "We believe it's reasonable to provide for instant background checks at gun shows, just as in gun stores and pawn shops." 1999, Wayne LaPierre, the NRA, saying they had no problem with background checks at gun shows. What's happened between now and then? What has happened? Well, we know what's happened, actually. And in case you don't know what's happened, gun manufacturers in this country started seeing a decrease in their sales. And part of the reason was fewer people were hunting. In the old days, I guess, fathers would hunt with their sons and sons would hunt with their sons and on, and it was family tradition, and fewer and fewer are doing it. Fewer young people want to go slogging around in the woods shooting at animals. They just as soon stay in a warm home, doing virtual shooting on a video game, okay? So, also, guns, by their very nature, are not like so many of the other things that we produce. They are not meant to disintegrate within 5, 6, 7 years so that you have to then buy another to replace that which no longer functions. There is not planned obsolescence that is built into the manufacture of guns. So once somebody buys a gun, in fact, if they buy the gun literally for self-protection or for whatever, and that gun works just fine, the odds are the gun will work just fine 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years hence. So faced with this problem, gun manufacturers, I can't remember which one was instrumental in coming up with the bright idea, and this would have to be sort of around the same time. They came up with the idea of how do we attract more gun purchases? How do we make people want more guns? Well, they decided to go for the macho aspect of what motivates men to want a gun. And this is when you saw military guns being marketed to civilians with the kind of advertising and such that suggested that if you buy this baby that goes just like in the jungles of, all of that, that's when that started. And in fact, it was a mother lode. People started buying these things. They never had one of those before. People started, it's been very recent. This whole appeal to their fantasy. So guns went from for hunting, for self-protection, for target shooting, to all of a sudden to living your fantasies. Also, there was the ratcheting up from the right wing of the political spectrum of this government is evil thing. And so you have to be armed to protect yourself from all of these things. And the NRA doing battle at the very front of the line for the gun manufacturers and to create this mindset that would result in much bigger gun sales. Lo and behold. And also to always suggest that the government is wanting to take your guns away. That prompts, as we've found, gun sales. So gun sales went through the roof because they figured out the psychology. The macho fantasy and then the paranoid fantasy. Those two together. Be a man with your Bushmaster. And on the other hand, the government is going to come and take your gun. So both these things have been ratcheted up really in the last 10, 15 years. If you look at the NRA, 1999, they seem almost reasonable. They took out full-page ads in USA Today and the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post saying flat out that they were for gun checks, background checks at gun shows. 1999. And now, if you happen to see Wayne LaPierre earlier this week, he acts as though that is the most deranged, outrageous, fascistic, communistic, socialistic, tyrannical thing that could possibly happen. He endorsed it 14 years ago. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, I think that's my gun section. We have out of wedlock birth. We have some interesting tidbits on Governor Corbett. We have a little item on how the 1%'s children are living. We have the kerfuffle in the Super Bowl of homophobia. We got lots of things that we can talk about in this hour. We also have, as we speak, the Port Authority Board meeting. It was a public meeting, but then they threw everybody out and went into executive session. The city paper's Lauren Daly is down there following it, and she has tweeted that the CEO of the Port Authority, Mr. Bland, what an awful name. I would rather die than go. I'd rather be, I don't know, have a name like Schmugger than Bland. I think Bland. Anyway, Mr. Bland, the CEO, who's believed to, probably going to get axed today. Let's just say that Lauren Daly reports that he's not there. That his chair is empty. And there's someone who looks strangely like Clint Eastwood talking to it. We'll take a break. Be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for John Waters at the Warhol. Plus, Hot Water Music, Radio Tokyo, The Lumineers, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania. And on the web at pghcitypaper.com. And on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
For the millions living with COPD, breathing becomes a real struggle. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, but you may have heard of it as chronic bronchitis or emphysema. Over time, it makes it harder and harder to breathe until you feel like you're breathing through a straw. COPD is the 4th leading cause of death in the U.S. It kills one person every 4 minutes, and it took my grandmother. An estimated 24 million Americans are affected, but as many as half of them don't even know it. It's a race against time to spread the word about this serious disease. If you're over 35 and have ever smoked, you could be at risk. The good news is, there are steps you can take to improve your symptoms. I'm Danica Patrick, and I drive for COPD. Take action today to breathe better tomorrow. Join the movement at driveforcopd.com, take our screening questionnaire today, and talk to your doctor.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, welcome back. So I have to admit, I never really followed the story closely about the prison guards at the state prison here over on the north shore, that was on trial on all kinds of counts of abusing inmates, and the one major corrections officer, Harry Nicoletti Jr., was convicted yesterday on 27 criminal counts, and mostly based on the on testimony of inmates, which takes some doing because inmates, by their very nature, are not considered reliable witnesses. But he was found. He was not found guilty on most of the counts against him. I mean, there were a ton of counts, but he did get not guilty on 52, but guilty on 27. More than enough to, of course, stick him in jail. Here's what occurred to me. It said he was let go. I mean, he wasn't put into handcuffs immediately and taken away. He was let go, but he is to be back in court on March 27th for sentencing. Now, what I was thinking is, how does a guy like that, how does he survive jail? I mean, I know if you're a pedophile, you're going to face a lot of trouble in jail. But even worse than a pedophile would be a former guard convicted of all kinds of sadistic, I think torture is too strong a word, sadistic assault and sort of terroristic threats of prisoners. Where do you put him in a jail without him getting killed? It's just a question I have. And I wonder, I mean, I know in these cases they can put somebody essentially in solitary, but that could be said to be, I guess, cruel and unusual punishment if that doesn't fit the nature of the crime. And yet, if Nicoletti is to go to jail and wants to come out alive, it would seem that would have to be what would happen. I don't know. If you're a prison guard known to abuse prisoners, the last place you want to be is in prison. God. So, I don't know. Just a thought I had as I read it. I can't imagine. Russ is responding to the efforts in Missouri to teach kids guns, how to handle guns in first grade. And he seems, I think Russ is having a little bit of a fit upon hearing this information. Lynn, now the NRA and lawmakers want to train future Dylan Klebold on how to use guns. Not all these bullied kids are going to know how to pack and use heat. Now all these bullied kids are going to know how to pack and use heat. Gads. Oh, okay. We're getting a report that the Port Authority Board has re-entered the public room after their executive session, and Lauren Daly also reports that board chairman Jack Brooks was shaking as he asked the board to enter into executive session. Jeez. All right, so even as we speak, there's some real political shenanigans going on down there. I think without a doubt, Mr. Bland is kaput. So, our governor, the extraordinarily unpopular Mr. Corbett, got a big write-up in the New York Times today. I mean, it's big. It's big, 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 half a page. And I'm sure he doesn't want it. He would not be happy with this. It shows him looking embattled, and under him is a very good-looking woman perched on a chair, showing off some seriously nice-looking legs. And that would be our Attorney General. And the story is about how she is apparently today or the next day or very soon is set to name a special prosecutor to investigate the governor's handling of the Jerry Sandusky case when he held her job as Attorney General. And whoa, so that's as if Corbett doesn't have enough on his plate at the moment. This is what's happening. And I must say, and I don't know, this is such a sticky issue, isn't it? When good-looking women with gorgeous legs acquire positions like the Attorney General of a state or the President of a... Is there a point at which... We struggled with this in the early years of the women's liberation movement. That if a woman is to be taken seriously, should she, not show her legs too much, not perch in a certain way that immediately, for any male looking, sexualizes her, as opposed to giving her authority. It's one of the reasons you see a lot of women in corporate settings just looking like, they wear these horrible mannish suits, and because they simply want to be taken seriously. I can completely understand that. I do. And the picture of Kathleen Kane, our Attorney General, she can't help that she's a good-looking woman. And she wears her hair in a very sort of, very long and straight, and it's behind her back and then comes cascading over her breast. And obviously, the New York Times said, we'd like to get a picture. And if you're the Attorney General, I don't know that you want to pose like she posed. Am I being old-fashioned here, like an old feminist person? Jess? Jess says yes.
I don't know.
You think so? Yeah? No, I know. This would be considered what I'm saying is sexist. I'm just talking as a pragmatist. I'm talking as what I know. A picture that looks like that, I wish you could see it. And I cut part of it off. She's got, you know what I mean? She's like this, and her legs are gorgeous and long. And that's fine, but okay, you're the Attorney General. You're the first female Attorney General in the state of Pennsylvania. You're going after the governor with a special prosecutor. The New York Times is coming to do a story. I don't want to look like this. I don't want to. I want to be sitting behind a desk or looking like some tough law enforcement officer. I don't want to look like I'm posing for the high school yearbook. I just, and I know I'm wrong. I'm wrong about what I'm saying in many respects. I know that. But I know, come on, guys. We know how our brains work. And I'm a woman. I'm not even a man. And the first thing I saw in this picture was, whoa, nice legs. That's what anyone's going to say. Beautiful hair, nice legs. Not you, Jess? So maybe younger people don't have this. Maybe we're still, it's like the reason the freed Israeli slaves in Exodus in the Bible who left Egypt, with Moses. It's why they had to wander in the desert for 40 years. Those former slaves could not be the ones who settled their homeland, because they had a slave mentality. So they had to die off. It was their children and their children's children who could go into the promised land. And maybe I still have I'm still infected with the slave mentality because I grew up with it and then encountered the incredible hostility of women entering the workforce and how easily it was that we were undercut. So I still have trouble when I see someone in such a position of authority looking just too much like a babe. I don't know. I'm not saying that she can't help. She's beautiful and has gorgeous legs. But I wouldn't pose like that where my legs are the biggest thing that anyone's going to see. Caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You were talking about bad names. Today in the paper, a man died. His name was John Rape. Could you imagine the last name Rape? Go on an interview and they'd say, "Sir, Mr. Rape's here to see you."
No, that would be a
bad last name.
That would be, maybe he pronounced it Roppy.
Oh, maybe he did. I think it's pronounced Rape.
Rape. Okay.
Yes, I do because I think I know who they are.
Oh, okay. It's not a good name. No, I would not want that one.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Rape. Okay.
We'll
May he rest in peace. For that matter, Koch, who I said, may he rest in peace. I mean, you could look, that name, Koch, is pronounced by some Koch. You wouldn't want that name either. So you say instead Koch, or as in the case of those two Republican gazillion, billion, zillion heirs who fund all the right-wing and anti-labor stuff, the Koch brothers, that they spell their name the same as Koch. That's the same name, Koch. Well, I'm sorry. So you're listening to the ramblings of an old feminist who wonders if younger women are going to have to learn these lessons themselves, because I don't think there's any changing men. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, speaking of changing men, did you see this? Dan Marino has admitted that he fathered a child out of wedlock with a CBS production assistant. Let me tell you, a production assistant, that'd be a young babe. Oh, Lord. Anyway, the New York Post reports that our Dan Marino, right here from Oakland, Central Catholic, Danny Marino, who is married and the father of 6, well, now 7, because he has a daughter, another daughter, Chloe, who lives in Texas. He refuses to talk about it. He says, Dan has said, somebody said for him, has said all there is to say on this matter, and he'll be in his usual role on a broadcast Super Bowl Sunday. Marino has said, we continue to be a strong and loving family. I've been married for almost 30 years. He says, I take full responsibility, both personally and financially, for my actions now, as I did then. The New York Post reports that he gave the mother of his child a very large monetary settlement, and she went off to Texas to lay low. Marino agreed to pay her millions, and she moved from New York to Texas to keep their relationship and child a secret. Well, I guess that didn't work. Oh, my story about Dan Marino. So get this. Here's the first time I met Dan Marino. I'm just been hired. I just moved to Pittsburgh. And so it's 1981, probably. And I'm in the WTAE TV newsroom, where I'm a new reporter. And I walk back to where my desk was, and there was a large, young, nice-looking man sitting in my chair. And I said, hi. And he said, hi. And I said, that's my chair. So he got up and I sat down at my desk and started working. And it was Dan Marino. He, at the time, was the quarterback. I found out who he was later. A quarterback for the Pitt Panthers. And he, I was told, had been hired by WTAE television as an intern. So he was just sitting there staring at the wall. And I was being sent out on a story. And whoever sent me out said, hey, Lynn, would you take Dan with you so that he can see, we want him to see how it works. He can sort of, tail you today when you go down on your story. And the story was, we came down here to downtown to Grant Street to the City Hall. And we get out of the car and we start heading in to the City Hall for our interview. And I turn around and Marino's not there. He ditched us. He just, disappeared or something. So I remember when I got back, I said, I lost the intern. I don't know where the hell that guy is. I said he was right behind us. We were walking in, and then he must have walked the other direction. And the people who heard me say this all started sort of laughing. I remember the laughter. Well, of course, years and years and years and years later, as I look back, it becomes fairly obvious what was going on there. All I know is that at the time, the general manager of WTAE was the biggest Pitt Panther booster in the world. Still is. A guy named John Conomikes. He's now retired, but he was a big mucky muck with Hearst Broadcasting. And my guess is, Marino was the quarterback, and he said, hey, I'll give the kid an internship at the TV station. I don't think Marino did a thing there. He came and sat every once in a while in the newsroom and then took a ride downtown with us and disappeared. But my guess is, how do I know? But my guess is that would be one of those things where the boosters grease the skids for the football players and find a way to funnel them money. That's my bet. I'm sure that if he was getting a paycheck for being an intern, that it was a lot bigger a paycheck than any real intern got. As a matter of fact, I don't think interns got paid anything. So that's just my guess. But so the only time I ever really spent any time with Dan Marino was when he was that young kid before the real glory of becoming a major NFL quarterback. But how, these guys are taken care of. They're taken care of. And the part of me always gets very angry because think of all the kids maybe in school at Pitt who were serious about a career in broadcasting or in journalism, who would have died if they could have gotten that internship and would have been working and would have been, making use of it. And at the time, I was really very annoyed. I found it, not right. But that's just the way it goes, isn't it? That's the way the world works. Okay, Michael writes, I tend to feel the problem with women in politics is not as much the manner in which they dress. It is more in the response of the viewer and more to the point how the media report. Well, that's it. That's my point. Let's be practical about, it's not about you. It's about the perception of you and then how it's played. If you want people to take seriously, I'm sorry, ladies, this is the way it is. A homely woman in power has a lot easier time of it in many ways. She can be taken seriously. But a babe in power, I think, creates a lot of cognitive dissonance in men's heads and in other women's heads because of how how our brains are trained to respond. In regard to the prison guard now being a prisoner, he said, Michael says he'd be in protective custody, which in effect will disallow him from yard time and out of cell time. He'd be in a little individual case. Yeah, right. It's like solitary confinement. You can come in and be with the general population and get killed, or you can spend your sentence in solitary confinement and maybe come out alive. That's, I think, what would be Nicoletti's choices. Pretty incredible. Marge writes, and this is true. Hi, Lynn. Sometimes a photographer takes many shots, and Kathleen Kane, the Attorney General, had no choice in what picture they use. That's true. But then Marge goes on to agree with me. She can't look like a babe when she's trying to fight the men. I mean, in the movies she can. I agree with you. In real life, I don't think it's smart. Tone it down. It's not right. Just let's deal with reality. Tone it down. Hello.
Hi, Lynn. Good morning to you.
Hi.
I like the straight hair. I like the new hairstyle.
Oh, well, that's just because I was at a hairdresser and they know how to do that, and I don't.
And I just realized that's kind of a sexist comment for me to make. Given that you're a serious news person, and
I like your. No, all women like being told that you find something attractive. Don't be
God
silly.
knows, like if it was a day where Chris Potter was on, I probably wouldn't be, commenting him on his scalp pomade.
No, that's true. But there it is. There it is in a nutshell. And I mean, so I know I'm being sexist right now. I'm being sexist and pragmatic. What do you think?
But I was really calling to...
Oh, you're not calling about that. Okay.
Well, I was calling about how you talked about earlier how the gun manufacturers, the gun industry really worked overtime to create this marketing campaign to appeal especially to males, but I think also to implant this idea that at some future date there's going to be this apocalyptic breakdown, and civilian gun owners are going to have to defend themselves against the UN blue helmets or the black helicopter folk, or I don't know, maybe Generalissimo Obama and his black cadres or something like that.
Yeah.
But they come up, they really do. They have a lot of people convinced of these lunatic scenarios. I mean, I've heard there was a woman, I believe her name was Trotter, who testified before the Hill.
Wasn't she something?
That she needed an assault weapon because if and when multiple armed intruders break into her home and threaten her and her 6 children, she needs a very intimidating-looking weapon to frighten them, and a high-capacity magazine, and the ability to fire on semi-auto mode, to fend off these, this horde of armed attackers.
I watched her testimony, and I was slack-jawed.
I mean, you want a face palm. I mean, I heard there was another person who was talking about this, about how if you limit the number of bullets in the magazine of a gun, even a handgun, then in a scenario like what happened in Aurora, where the killer came in and was wearing Kevlar body armor, well then, what if the first 6 bullets you hit him with don't knock him to the ground? You only have 1 bullet left to get off the headshot.
Oh,
I mean, they have these lunacy scenarios culled from, like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon movies, that you're going to get into this prolonged shootout.
I know.
With these armed attackers.
I know. It's, again, the reality does not necessarily enter the picture here. Or it's mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling. And that mindset is not a marginalized mindset in this country. It's a good hunk of the country, right? A good hunk of it. They've been taught well their paranoia.
And I used to when you had the old radio show on 1360, I sometimes used to joke that I thought that a lot of the real diehard right wingers came over from some like parallel dimension, because their reality seemed so different than the one I get up and live every day in the world.
Right.
And now I'm just becoming more and more convinced. Maybe that I don't know. Maybe they wake up in the morning, some little interdimensional doorway opens from some cinematic universe, cinema non-verite, and then they cross over into ours. I don't know. I mean, they were describing these things, and I'm thinking, this is just absurd. I mean, because what's the next step? Well, if the horde of attackers have bulletproof armor on, and they're using riot gear, and they have semi-automatic weapons,
then
maybe Miss Trotter actually needs like a minigun, something that can fire on full automatic, or maybe she needs a rail gun. Maybe that's what she needs.
Maybe she needs every mother. When you leave the hospital with your baby, they give you diapers and those little gifts and stuff. Maybe we should start giving new mothers I don't know what, submachine guns and or Sidewinder missiles. I don't know.
The car industry, the American car industry. I think they should start promoting APCs to civilians. Armored up vehicles.
I
think they ought to take their cue from the gun industry.
Well, listen, the CEOs are driving around in those now. They got scared when the Occupy movement came up. So sales of totally weaponized SUVs and limos went sky high. Unbelievable. Hey, thanks for the call, and I got to take a break.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the compliment too. I wish I could do this hair like that, but I don't know how. Screw it. We'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite local restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to Cracker Barrel. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, and a few odds and ends here before the weekend's on us. As if Governor Corbett wasn't having a bad enough week, his son-in-law is under federal investigation. So Kathleen Kane, our leggy attorney general, is going to appoint a special prosecutor to look into Corbett's handling of the Sandusky investigation when he was AG, and the son-in-law of Governor Corbett, who happens to be a narcotics officer on the Philadelphia police force, is apparently being investigated by the FBI and has been removed from his usual duties. He has been put on administrative leave following the results of an FBI and Internal Affairs investigation. His name is Gerald Gibson. He is married to Governor Corbett's daughter. Ay. The very bad, not so good, pretty horrible week. So, I get the Wall Street Journal, as you know, to keep an eye on the powers that be. And the Wall Street Journal has a section on Fridays, which is actually titled, get this, Mansion. That's the section. I got it. Oh, we have a call. Okay. Go ahead, caller. Caller, hi.
Who
Lynn Cullen show?
Yes, it is.
Hello, Lynn?
Yes.
You got back the guns here just in the last minute or so.
Yes.
And I was thinking, hypothetical, Lynn Cullen has a party over at the house and has 3 or 4 couples, friends of hers, come over, and one of her friends brings a date. This guy's a businessman or something or other, and then you find he's packing. He has a permit. He's carrying a gun. How do how do you feel about that?
I would not be happy.
Oh, I know I wouldn't be happy. But what do? I was thinking what I would do.
Well,
I think the least I would do would tell him to go out and put it in the car and forget about it, or whatever.
Well, I would not.
What would you do?
I would not. I mean, first of all, I don't know how the subject would. Well, okay. So all of a sudden, through conversation, he says, "Hey, I'm packing right now. I got a gun right here." I would not. I would just say, "Wow, yuck! I really wish you wouldn't have that in my house." But if we're all adults, I'm not going to worry that something's going to happen. I wouldn't ask him to get rid of it now, but I'd tell him that next time I'd just as soon he didn't bring it. Anyway, I would be... I mean, if there were kids in the house, I'd tell him to get the hell out.
Well, that scenario must be happening in Texas every day.
I suppose.
All these people getting jolted by people walking in their house with guns in their inside coat pocket or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I mean, you're standing in line somewhere. How do you know who's packing around you? You don't.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
But, when it happens in a home and you suddenly feel vulnerability, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you later. Bye.
Okay, bye. Hey, I just want to, this is a shout out to the last caller from Greensburg. I happen to know you're from Greensburg. You got a shout out from Palm Springs, Michael, who said, cinema non verite? That's the greatest term I've heard all month. I truly want to use it. Who was that caller? Who was that masked man? That would be John from Greensburg, I believe. Cinema non verite. There you have it. You're delighting the audience. Okay, so in the Wall Street Journal mansion section today, gee, and I mean, yeah, and they have all these mansions that are up for, it's always fun to look at the houses here and what's for sale. But today's piece was on your beach home. Not your main home, but, the cottage, as it were. And they're talking about a new boom in beach homes in which the homes are literally made for the children. Get this. It says right here, a TV room with video games just doesn't cut it anymore. So you read this thing and you realize that there's a whole bunch of kids growing up in this country who are kids in general in this country tend to be spoiled, but spoiled at this level beyond belief. If so, they say the grandparents are adding on to their homes because they want their grandchildren to come to visit them. And if you just have some video games, the kid's going to say, "Are you kidding me? I'm not going to see Grandma. All she's got is a beachfront property and video games. And maybe a friggin' ping pong table." Okay, here's now what's standard. A quote, movie theaters are standard now in the higher end houses, in the cottages, in the Hamptons. Amenities like ice cream parlors, skate ramps, outdoor ice skating rinks, and subterranean basements with 20-foot ceilings for indoor basketball. The guy who's quoted there is a builder. He's a residential developer in the Hamptons. He just built himself a 30,000 square foot house with a bowling alley, an indoor playground, a skateboard half pipe, a tree house, and a zip line. He's quoted, "It was totally kid-oriented. The house now is for sale for $43.5 million. Oh, here, look at this. We have a large bunk room that sleeps 8 to 10 kids, and each bunk bed is outfitted with its own television." Jess is looking at me like, can you imagine what nightmares these kids will grow up to be? And these are the people, this is the children of the 1%. Oh, my. Such traditional adult amenities as bars, dining rooms, luxurious master suites, and spa-style bathrooms are falling out of favor. Really, the idea of a wine room is a bit passé. But not an ice cream parlor, movie theater, and indoor basketball court, because keeping the children and the grandchildren happy is all these people want to do. Zip lines! Sarah, now 14, says her favorite feature in her parents' new home is the jump rock, a 12-foot waterfall that she can jump off into a lower pool. Her mother says it's about being totally open and accessible and not having a single place where the kids cannot be wet. All right, well, that was your dose of That's Reality from the 1%. Reporting back. No, I was at my hairdresser yesterday, which is why my hair is nice and sleek today. And he was talking about how some of his clients complain that their kids don't want to do this and don't want to do that and he said, they complain that their kid doesn't want to be with them. And then, I say, well, where is the kid? The kid turns out to be 22 and is biking through the French countryside at their expense. So this continue these just unbelievably. A child, I thought part of what growing up is that a child is supposed to find out they are not the center of the universe. That's part of, where you can become an adult. You're not, it ain't all about you. You're not, and here are these idiots making, their kids will end, I don't know. I have nothing left to say. After the mansion, actually, from now on Fridays, I'll regale you with something from the mansion section of the Wall Street Journal. Not to rub it in, you understand, but just so that you realize that when we talk about other realities, like we're talking about the gun nuts and their reality, there's this other reality of, I believe these people are called the makers. We're the takers. They're the makers, and how they live and how they're raising their children who will be the next 1%ers. It's enough to make you puke. Just quickly make sure I got everybody in with, Ray saying, oh, come on. Lynn. Oh, here's Ray, the gun owner. Okay, Ray, you'll get the last word today. Lynn, no one pushes drugs. People want them. Gun manufacturers don't push guns. People want them. Ray, you're too smart to say something like that. People, this whole country's economy is built on creating want. Creating desires of things that people don't, in fact, need. Whether that's... I'm going to start... Come on. You bet gun manufacturers push guns. They create fantasy and then desire and then need. They do research how to get into the parts of the human brain in which, desire occurs and pleasure, and they play on it. Oh, I don't agree with that. Gun manufacturers don't push guns. People want them. It's a vicious circle. Yeah, chicken egg, you think? Yeah, some people want them. Gun manufacturers make sure people want more, bigger, meaner, fancier, the newest, the latest. Ray goes on to say the gun makers didn't create these doomsday scenarios. This country's been primed for generation after generation by ignorant, simple-minded preachers to expect the end times, to pit the righteous against the sinners. We're a frightened people with our heads on swivels, looking for the enemy to spring out. The Bush response to 9/11 put a match to a pile of kindling as old as the flag. How many of our leaders believe in the rapture? A hell of a lot. If you think the preppers and Tea Party nuts are scary, take a look at the government and police. They lead the way. Outlawing guns will not work as long as we accept the eschatology? What's that word from yesterday? Eschatology. You misspelled it, Ray. Eschatology of paranoia and fear. Gun technology is easy and getting easier. What's hard is assuaging the childish fears of the gun owners. But those childish fears are stoked by the NRA, by the Republican Party. The Republican Party is so adept at stoking fear, it is unbelievable. It's how they've always maintained their power. Fear of the commies, fear of gays, fear of black people, fear of immigrants, fear that the government will take your guns, fear of terrorists, that is how Republicans have always, they sell fear. Oh, is it easy to sell? But come on, Ray, you can't just let the manufacturers off the hook here. They're very much part and parcel of the creation of desire and fear and fantasy that feeds all of this insanity. I said you were going to get the last word. I lied. Okay, that's it for me this week. Hey, if you want more, 4802. What a stupid name. The TV show I'm on, Friday nights, WQED, 7:30. You can get a better look at my sleek new hairdo if you'd like. Okay? Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.